Hello, everybody. Welcome to the podcast. I'm excited to be with you this week. I was out and about last week a couple of times, headed up to Atlanta, and I noticed the traffic is pretty bad right now. School is back in session, and so we've got the roads bogged down. I got stopped by a couple of school buses, and I'm just thinking about all this stuff going on with school. I want to talk to you today a little bit about getting back into the routine. We're heading into fall here just in the next few weeks, and the kids are back in their routine. So we're going to talk today about habits. Welcome to the podcast, where we've been talking these last few weeks about winning at home. We say winning begins at home. And really, that's what we're trying to help you do, win outside of work. We also talk a lot about work, but I think what happens outside of work is what positions you to win at work. Sometimes it's about marriage and family, but all these other areas of your life as well, finances and fitness and some of the things we've been discussing. We talked about relationships last week. If you missed that episode, I hope you'll go back and download that, send it to a friend. Thanks for being with us again this week. We're fired up about this, and I am excited about habits today. I've actually got some of my habit books here. The Power of Habit. I'll talk about these in a moment. Charles Duhigg's book. Brendan Burchard has written High Performance Habits. I'll give you a few thoughts here from some of these books. The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Covey wrote. There's several books, and so we'll talk about that a little bit. But I want us to talk about habits, and I have a thought here for you as we begin the episode today. I believe that your habits are perfectly designed to give you the current results you're getting in your life. Every area of your life, your habits are perfectly designed to give you your results. If you understand that, it will just raise the level of how important it is for us to have these habits in our lives. And I like Brendan's title, High Performance Habits. Our habits, I mean, some of us have bad habits, right? We have habits that are leading toward low performance, or they're messing us up. But I want us to talk today a little bit about the right kind of habits in our lives. And so as you think about that statement I made, they're perfectly designed to give you results. Some of us right now, we're overweight because of our habit that we have about food, or our bank accounts aren't where they need to be because we don't have the habit of making deposits. We make more withdrawals than we do deposits. Some of us, our relationships, go back again, what we talked about last week, they're struggling because our habits in those relationships are not where they need to be. So habits, really, they work positively and negatively. But I want us to talk today a little bit about the positive side of habits, because I believe if we have the right ones in place, it raises the level of performance. It does give us high performance. It leads to greater results. I was with a Navy SEAL actually at a training that I did, and he was speaking, and we were speaking together at this thing. And he made this statement. He says, in the SEALs, this is their, and you may have heard this before. He says, we don't rise to the occasion when we get into battle. We sink to the level of our training. I think that's just really great reminder for those SEALs who do all that training I mean, when the heat is on and the battle is, you're in the middle of it. I mean, you really are going to sink to the level of what you've prepared for, what you've trained for. Well, I'm going to make a little twist on this statement. I'm going to say this: we don't rise to the level of our goals. I know a lot of you guys out there listening, you're high performance thinkers. You're chasing greatness, as we've talked about in the last few months. You are going after your goals. I'm going to say we don't rise to the level of our goals. I think we sink to the level of our habits. And so as we're thinking about this mindset that says I'm going to have the right habits in place to go after the results I can, I want us to focus a little bit on that. So I got a few thoughts for you. I do have 4 books that I've read. Ironically, I've read these books in the last year. I've been looking at them. I got a couple of them here. A couple of them I've read digitally, but I brought a couple of these, and I go back to this, the one I mentioned a moment ago, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, that Stephen Covey wrote. And I don't know, this book's probably 30 years old now, maybe older. You could look that up. I probably should have looked that up before I start just throwing around dates. But I remember first running into those 7 habits of highly effective people, maybe back during the 90s, when the first time I heard about it. And one of the things that stuck out to me then, there were so many great things in those 7 habits. One of those habits that I thought was really great was this idea of putting first things first. It was, and I remember the illustration he used, and he talked about, he had a bucket, and he had all these things that you could put in the bucket in this training that I sat through. There was a video of this going on, and the punchline was if you put the small rocks in first, the big rocks won't fit. But if you put the big rocks in, and then the pebbles in, and then the sand in, and then I think the trainer even poured water in, it was amazing how much would go into that life. And so as we think about our habits in our lives, I would encourage your habits, or you as you choose your habits, for those to be focused toward the things that matter most in your life. So you do think about your money and your finances, and you do think about your fitness, and you do think about your relationships in your family. You do think about maybe even your work, but at work, how do you prioritize those things that matter most to you? I think those are really important things. And so I love, Stephen Covey coming up with that first things first mindset, putting those first. This book I mentioned a moment ago from Brendan Burchard, it's called High Performance Habits. He says it's how extraordinary people become that way. This is a really good shout out there and a plug for this book. It's one of the best books I've read in the last couple of years. And one of the things he talks about, he gives this little 6 things, but the first couple of them is he talks about the habit, or having the habit of making sure that you have clarity in what you're trying to do. What are you trying to accomplish? Why does it matter? Some of those kind of things. And then managing your energy. I love that he talked about that, having the energy. And so the habits in my life to make sure that I have the energy I need to go after the things that I'm trying to do. I think those are really important thoughts there from that. So I would highly recommend both those books. Another book that I read just recently is a book called Atomic Habits. It was written by a guy, I think his first name was James, but last name Clear. I think James Clear. He wrote a book called Atomic Habits. If you've not read that, I highly recommend that as well. One of the things he talks about in his book is he says that habits are like compound interest when it comes to your self-leadership, your self-improvement. And so I like that picture. It's every time I do something in a habitual way, a positive habit, if we think about it that way, it's like making a deposit into the account of my life or of my leadership. And so those habits are like compound interest. So as you think about your life right now, do you have things that are an account that you feel like you can make a withdrawal from because you've made so many healthy choices, so many habits that have led to high performance, or they've positioned you now for high performance? I like that idea. I have several years ago, almost 7.5 years ago, I guess, I had a job that I left, and I had a retirement account. This was kind of interesting. Or it was interesting to me. I had a retirement account that I had been putting a percentage of my income in for a couple of decades, nearly a couple of decades. And that account, as I just looked at it recently, I was not able to move the money for, there were some reasons I couldn't move the money into a different kind of account, but I was just able to leave it in the account it was in. And I looked at that account recently, and that money actually over the last 8 years has doubled, which was crazy when I thought about it. The money has doubled, and I've not made one deposit into the account in 8 years. I'm not allowed to make any more deposits into that account. And I thought, how cool is it that we made deposits for a couple of decades, left it there, and because we made the right deposits for a long time, the money actually continued to grow. You got to love compound interest. If you don't know about that, I encourage you to look that one up. I mean, when you put money in, it's not just that it's in the bank, it's actually that it grows when it's there, or whatever you're investing it in, when you make the right investments. And I think the same thing's true with your mind and your body and your family relationships, all those things. Is every time you make that deposit, it's not just that you can withdraw it back out. It's that it grows. The interest grows over time. And you don't even have to keep making deposits at the same level, forever. I mean, you're going to have different seasons when you think about your habits. So love that idea from Atomic Habits, that they're like compound interest. That's cool. And then also mention this book, The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. This book is pretty cool. And here's what he says. I mean, I thought this was his subtitle, Why We Do What We Do in Life and Business. And he talks about, he's got a little model in here with cues and cravings and all this stuff. It's pretty fascinating. If you've not read this book, I encourage you. But the thing he said I thought was great. He said the difference in who you are and who you want to be is what you do. I mean, let me say it one more time. The difference in who you are and who you want to be is what you do. Basically, my way of saying that is you're getting what you're getting because you're doing what you're doing. That's my old country boy way of saying the same thing. But really, the difference in who, I mean, we all are who we are. We have reality, and then we have who we want to be, and there's often a gap between the two. And the only thing that determines the gap between who you are and who you want to be is your habits or your lack of habits, if you want to think of it that way. It's what you're doing or not doing. And so I think that's an important reminder. So those would be some books that I would recommend if you're wondering about habits, how to work on your habits, some of those kind of things. This is these guys all written these great books, and it's helped me. But I want to give you a couple other things to think about here that I think will help you understand even more maybe the importance of your habits. And one of the things that Brendan says in High Performance Habits, Brendan Burchard, he makes this statement. He says, just because people want to put things on your plate because you're good doesn't mean you should let them. It doesn't mean you should let them. And so when we think about habits, I mean, I think it's important for you to work out and all those kinds of, I mean, all those things, they're great habits. But some of us are in the habit of letting people put things on our plate because we're good at something. Maybe that's not what we really should be doing. And so just because you're good at something doesn't mean you should always say yes. And so as you start thinking about your habits, are you in the habit of allowing people to dump on you? Are you in the habit of saying yes to things that you shouldn't say yes to? Are you in the habit, whether it's somebody else asking you to or not, are you in the habit of just saying yes to every opportunity that comes? I think one of the habits that we all need to incorporate in our lives is the ability to say no. There's places where we need to say no. There's things that we need to stop doing, not start doing, as we think about our habits. And so I think it's really important. And then there's a couple other things I want to say about habits here that I think will be good reminders for us. And one of them is this. I've been thinking not just about the routine, the kids go back to school, do we have habits, all those kind of things. Those are great, but let's think beyond routine. And what's beyond routine? I think it's ritual. Now, there are things in your life that you almost want to have this ritualistic mindset toward. They're just like, they're in blood, this is going to happen. But I also want to warn you, when you think about a ritual, the way I would define a ritual, I mean, I understand ritual from a religious standpoint. There's, symbols and sayings and, liturgies and all kind of things that are wrapped up in those. But I would say a ritual, if you want a good definition to think about a ritual and kind of the negative side of a ritual, I think it's a habit without a heart. It's a habit without a heart. So what do you mean by that? Well, let's say you want to be in the habit of affirming your people at work or affirming your family members. You can write them a note, but if all you're doing is checking a box, it just becomes almost the ritual is what you begin to worship rather than the opportunity to add value to the person. It's like your employees will see right through it if all you're doing is checking a box. If your heart is not in it, they'll see right through it. And so a ritual in this context is a habit without the heart. And I think, actually it's interesting when I think about it, even from a religious standpoint, Jesus, I talk about him sometimes as a leader. I love, some of the things that he taught and thought about. And one of the things that we see all through the New Testament is that he was calling out these guys called the Pharisees. If you ever read the Bible and you know who the Pharisees are, they were these religious leaders of the day, and his big problem he had with them was not that they were doing the right thing. They were literally worshiping the idea of doing the right thing. The problem was they were doing the right thing without the right heart, and Jesus called them out on it. He pushed them on it. And so I love that. It's just a good reminder. So because so many times I choose, or I want to choose, to do the right thing, but I do the right thing but not in the right way. I don't do it with the right heart. I'll do what I'm supposed to do, but not do it because I'm wanting to do it, not doing it with the right heart. And when I do that, man, that gets in the way. And so I think for some of us, when we think about our habits, we think about doing things, even doing things for others. I think servant leadership really is the best leadership. But I think if all you're doing, I think we can be serving and it can actually be self-serving if we're not careful or if our heart's not right. So I want to just remind you that rituals it's a habits without a heart. And so guard your heart. Make sure your heart's right. Make sure your heart's in the things that we're talking about. But I think when I think about my habits in my life, and I have several habits that I try to keep every day, and I try to do every day. And I want to keep asking myself, why am I doing these habits? Like the habit is not the most important thing. The most important thing is where the habit is leading me. If you want to think about it, the habit's not the hero, really. The results are the hero. It's like the habit is just the road to get me to the results. So I want us to be reminded of that. And then a couple other things I would also say is one of them is if you fail to keep your habit. So many times that I've got this habit that I want to have. Let's say one of my most important maybe habit that I have in my life, I think every day, is that I try to read the Bible every day. That's for me. You can choose what you want to do every day with your time, but if you've got something that you just say, this is going to be a part of my daily routine, I think that's great. But the next thing you know, I miss a day of it or whatever. Let's say you're trying to work out and you miss a day, and you all of a sudden feel like a failure, and now you're just going, well, I didn't go to the gym this week, I'll start back Monday. I think one of the most powerful things that maybe I could remind you of here is never let your habit streak, if you want to think of it in a streak. Again, your heart's got to be in it, it's not really. It's just you're just ritual again. But never let yourself off the hook 2 days in a row. If you never miss 2 days in a row, I think at least you're half the time at that point. But I love the idea of saying, if I make a mistake, just get back up. And we fail all the time. We start back over. But I think when we stack our habits, one on the other and day after day, and the next thing you know, you're rolling pretty good. And so I think one of the things that we can do is we can schedule our habits. When I think about my Bible reading, it happens at the same time every day. It's the first thing that happens. So the first half hour, that's what I'm going to do every day of my life. I'm going to try to. And the reason I want to do that is not so I can say I did that. It's so I can think better as my day goes on. Now, you may not need that much help, but I need to be reminded every day of just how I need to be thinking and who I need to be thinking about, and some of that. And so I want it to calibrate my mind and my heart and make sure I try to have the best day I can. I can't imagine what kind of mess I would be if I didn't do that, but it's very helpful for me. And so you may have a favorite habit. I've got a buddy who he takes a gratitude walk every day. He told me he walks a couple of miles every day and just thinks of all the things he's thankful for. I think that's really great. I know other people who they like to work out the first thing every day. And so you choose how you want to live your day, but I would encourage you to schedule your habits. Like, just pick the time. Like, this is when I'm going to work out. This is when I'm going to eat. This is what I'm going to eat. And you just begin to create these routines and these habits. You can go as far as ritual as long as your heart's in it. Like, this is in blood. This is going to happen. I think that's a fantastic way, or a fantastic way to think about it. As I think about my own habits, one of the places I would warn us all is, if you wait until you feel like it, chances are you'll never start. And so are you out there and you're struggling right now to do what you're supposed to do because you really just don't feel like it? You just never feel like exercise. You never feel like, picking up the phone and calling the person you're supposed to, or whatever it is. Again, you get to pick the area where you're going after the result, but the road to that is going to happen through action. It's going to happen through a habit. It won't, and in fact, it won't become a habit unless you do something, and you have to do it twice in a row for it to be a habit, right? You can't. I don't think you can say I have a habit because I did something one time. A habit is something that we do over and over again, leading toward that road we want to go. And so I'll give you this little phrase that I share sometimes in business when we talk about, having a bias for action in a team member or an employee. But I like this phrase: don't wait, initiate. Don't wait, initiate. If there's something that you really want, don't wait. Don't wait till Monday. Don't wait till the first day of the month. Don't wait till New Year's. Go ahead and initiate. I mean, just say, this is what I'm going after, and I'm going to do something, and this is what I'm going to try, and I'm going to try it for 2 days in a row, 3 days in a row, a week in a row. And then at the end of that, you can evaluate, and if it's not working, it's not taking you toward the result that you want, you can change habits. So you don't have to have the same habits for the rest of your life. There may be some things that you say, this is going to always happen, but there's some habits. For a season, you need this, or for a season, you need that. Almost like if I was running a marathon right now, I would be training at a level. I have a family member who's training for a half marathon right now. And so they're working at a level, training at a level that is pushing themselves more than they were a few weeks ago, and so they have to have the habits in place to do that. For some of us, like, we're just trying to get out the door and get a lap around the neighborhood. Our habits are probably different than this guy's, and so if that's you may just need to lay your shoes out and when you get home, you put your shoes on and you walk out on the sidewalk. That's your habit, just getting in the habit of having the habit. And then, move out in the neighborhood. The next thing you know, you might be running half marathons too. That'd be kind of cool. But I think scheduling our habits, not waiting, initiating until we feel like it, I think that's really important. And then I think I'll leave you with this. I've said this for, I don't know, a couple of decades. I've heard others say this, but I think this is so true. And anytime I'm questioning whether I should do something or not that I know I'm supposed to do, I just remind myself that you'll never regret doing the right thing. You never regret doing the right thing. And think about going to the gym. Let's say you want to go to the gym and that's on your list, and you want to be strong and you want to be fit, and you're doing that. And how many times have I ever gone to the gym when I felt like it? Not usually feeling like, let's go work out, let's go pound this, let's go, sweat and get to work. And yet, how many times have I gone to the gym, or I've gone to work out, or I've hit the pavement knowing that I really didn't want to, but it's what I'm supposed to do. It's what I'm committed to doing. Why? Because I want to be fit to lead. I want to have the energy I need for my kids and my wife and my grandkid now, and all my friends and the people that I'm around. I want to have energy, and so I don't want to go hit the road, or I don't want to hit the gym. That's never my motivation. The motivation is the result. This is the way I want to feel. This is the way I want to be emotionally available, and some of that comes from physical health and vitality as well. And so you never regret doing the right thing. And yet so many times I pushed through, and I would go, or have gone, and I always am happy after it's over. Like, not because it's over. Like, I'm happy because I did what I was supposed to do. I did what I was supposed to do. Now, go back to what I said earlier about, the ritual and the heart, the habits without a heart. I mean, when you go to the gym, if you're going to go and you're going to get there, then let's work and let's do what we're supposed to do, and let's put, but there's going to be times where you don't feel like it, and yet you still show up. And man, that's just like making that. I mean, how many times did I ever feel like putting a percentage of my income into a bank account? Like, I could always figure out something to do with that money, and yet every time I made those deposits, they were there, and now I can, at some point I'll be able to draw that out if I need to, and so that's kind of cool. So you never regret doing the right thing, and yet I tell you this: there's been times I've skipped, and I always regret it when I don't do the right thing. I always look back and go, man, I should have done that. I never go and get out and go, man, I hate that I went to the gym today. That never happens. And so you never regret doing the right thing. You'll always regret not doing the right thing. And so I just leave you with that. I think your habits are really important. So my challenge to you is to get one of these books, start reading, thinking about it. Ask yourself, what are the most important habits you have? Ask yourself, where am I right now? Like, what's my current reality? Who do I want to be? And what are the habits I need to put in place to close that gap from where I am to where I want to be? What are the things that need to go? What are the things I need to stop doing? I think if we can do that, we're going to be positioned to have some serious impact. We're going to feel better. We're going to look better. We're going to be able to help more. And as a result, we really will be on the way to high performance. So let's keep chasing greatness. It starts by winning at home. We've been talking about that these last few weeks. You win at home by living to your values. Remember that? We talked about relationships, and now your habits. Do you have the habits in place to get you from where you are to where you want to go? They're the road. They pave the way to high performance. Let's keep chasing greatness and heading toward high performance. Our habits are what are going to, that's what's going to get you there. And so let's do that. Now, if you have a great habit that, in your life, this is one of your habits, you do all the time, your routine, whatever. Love for you to share that in the comments. Throw it in the reviews there, anything as we're talking this week. If you have questions about habits or anything that you want to share with us, love that conversation. Love to speak into any questions that you have. That would be awesome. And if you know somebody who right now is struggling, maybe they got an area in their life where they really don't have the habits in place to help them get there. Hope you'll share this episode with us. Help us keep growing the audience. Next week, we're going to be talking about work. The next couple of weeks, got a couple of things we're going to share with. And then in 2 weeks, the second of those 2 weeks, I want to talk to you a little bit about how we can help you at your work, which will be kind of cool as well. We got some new stuff we're launching. So it's going to be fun next couple of weeks as we get back together. So we'll see you next week. In the meantime, make sure you're in the habit of doing the right thing. You'll never regret it.